Please keep in mind that these are my thoughts after having played in the beta for one day, getting my sorc to level 25 on veteran difficulty, and trying out several skill combinations and builds with her. I'll be playing more and trying other classes, so my thoughts might change over time, but with that being said, let's get into it. So Diablo 4 does what all Blizzard games do best. They wow you with amazing cinematics. Honestly, the cinematics are great. If you're playing for the campaign, you will be enjoying yourself, like I know I did. But that being said, the story is sadly very predictable so far, the plot twists, well, you can see from miles away, and you don't really form a bond with any of the characters, or at least I haven't so far. But that's okay, Mommy's there to save the story. So, playing for Lilith, that's fine. I'll start with the good and say that the game feels good to play. It's responsive, like your character moves where it's told. The teleport and the dodge are immediate. It lets you experiment as well with different skills, and it has a free refund option up to level 15. Keep in mind the game is in beta, so it is currently bugged and it will still cost you when you're refunding, but thankfully even at level 25 at the moment it does not cost that much to refund all my nodes and try something else. You can also just refund a single node at a time rather than all of them. However, that's a bit clunky because sometimes you can't refund a node because you need it to progress to further up in your skill tree. So yeah, it's a bit clunky in that aspect. The game offers customization. It has different transmog options as well for people that enjoy that. And it provides enough guiding to understand the game for the most part. At least until you can get to endgame and enjoy it. It doesn't really go over like sets and things and pairing, but that's kind of like a rather bland itemization in my opinion. The audio for the game is also good. It has clear feedback provided for the things that are happening on screen. So for example, if you have an explosion going on over there, as soon as it explodes you can hear it even if you can't see it. Now, that's it for like the good parts. There are also things that are less good. For example, my experience with my sorcerer. It can be summarized in 3 words. Out of mana! I spent the most part of yesterday trying out a lot of skills combinations and feeling as if I'm being told by the game to just slow down, take it easy, take a breath at every corner, because chain lightning costs 35 mana, you have 107 mana. That's like, you're going to run out of mana. A lot. Most skills on the sorcerer feel lackluster. Like, I don't feel I have a lot of choices in my skill tree when it comes to picking things, because most of them just don't function that great for leveling. It might just be a leveling problem, but right now it feels like chain lightning is just really great, and then ice armor for defensive, and it also gives you mana regen, so like, yes please. You have the teleport for movement, which is amazing, and then from these the Hydra is the one that felt the best to play with, but that is just my opinion. Like, even though the skill tree is sporting 4 to 6 different options per new skill, it felt like all the combat did was devolving kiting and running in circles while you were waiting for mana, or like auto attacking, using a basic attack and then using a core attack, and just alternating between those. For those of you that play Path of Exile, honestly, it doesn't feel different than having to use Fireball as a witch to kill Hillock, except you don't have mana pots, so you literally just gotta run in circles. After hitting level 25 and having my ultimate and enchantments, it still feels rather clunky. I don't personally feel as if much has changed in that regard. It might be that it's just not the class for me, that I'm not clicking with it, but that's just how I feel about it. That's my own experience with the sorc. So for me, the combat, the state, the way you go through things doesn't feel that good. The movement, like the teleport, it's amazing. You teleport so far off outside on the map. And in combat as well. So I have not been enjoying leveling, personally. That being said, I did enjoy it a tiny bit more once I had aspects. For those that don't know, the stars on your legendary gear. I had this aspect, reducing my core skill mana cost, and once I dropped that, it wasn't as dreadful, but it is still like... it still feels off, if that makes sense. Now, the dungeons, they feel unnecessarily long. Like, you have packs scattered here and there, but there are a lot of empty rooms and a lot of empty things with nothing in there. It's just... it's a huge dungeon. Most of them, like, sometimes you literally go from, like, I don't know, from here to over here inside one dungeon, and it's just like, why? There are only some mobs and one boss at the end. And to make it worse for me, right? Because it's early and monsters with modifiers are scarce, you're like, oh cool, at least the boss fights are interesting. Well, I did 3 dungeons. I did more now, but at the time I did 3 dungeons, right? And out of those 3 dungeons, 2 of them had the exact same boss skills. The exact same. It felt like such a lazy design, and it was off-putting. Like, if you're not at least going to show different bosses for the dungeons in the area that we're allowed to see, then what expectations should I have of endgame? That I'm just gonna see the same bosses over and over, the same skills over and over, which is probably what's going to happen anyway. Like, the recycling of bosses is a thing, and, you know, rifts at the end, you have the bosses, but I get it. I'm sidetracking. The world itself, for me, it feels empty. Like, the side quests, you have side quests that culminate in generally a dungeon. Like, they send you, as you can see here, this one is sending you into a dungeon. This one is sending you into a dungeon. So when it comes to questing, a lot of them are just, yeah, pick up a couple of items, which you have to click on every single one. So you gotta, like, click 25 times on something. That's not that fun. So yeah, the questing itself doesn't seem that great. The world looks great, don't get me wrong. Like, if you care for all the details, if you want to see like all the little textures on the rocks and whatnot, the world does look great. But the monotone gray and the depressing type of vibe that the snow area gives, this just reminds me of Path of Exile. So is that a bad thing? No, but it lacks its visual identity. It lacks its own kind of thing. It's just do I want to play a game that has the same artistic style as another game in the same genre? Yes, I know, Diablo 1, Diablo 2, right? It's different, it's going back, and then it's not like Diablo 3, but for me it doesn't feel special, it just feels bland. It just looks It's a generic realistic type ARPG that has all the details that you'll never really see or pay attention to, because let's be real, we're here for shinies, we're here for monsters, we're not here to admire this corpse over here and how the bones scatter. Also your character, like, you can't even zoom in to look at your character details that you so painstakingly worked on creating into into the generator itself. And it doesn't help that there are so few monsters and things to do on the map itself. Like, I'm hoping the world boss will be something to look forward to. I'm curious how the instances would work in that regard. But yeah, as you can see, I'm running around the map, and this is one pack, for example. It's like 4 little monsters in one corner. And then over here, we have a couple more monsters. But generally speaking, the game doesn't feel like it has variety in monsters, or I don't know, something more interesting about the world building. It feels like you don't have things to collect. There are a couple of vistas in the game, but overall there's not really much you can do about it. So here's the teleport as well, since I mentioned it earlier. I can teleport very, very far. It actually works off screen as well, so movement-wise it does feel nice. I'm looking forward to getting a mount, however, because I feel like, yeah, at that point the game's going to change a lot into just chasing quests. Sadly, because you cannot see the end game in the beta, it's impossible to make a decision or to say much about the game and whether or not it's worth it. Like, as always, friends make even bad games fun. So this is from the perspective of solo play only when I'm speaking, because I am confident that I will enjoy the game with my friends and I will feel the rush of dopamine as I drop legendaries on my journey and I'm comparing them and like having laughter with friends. But I am unimpressed by what I've experienced so far in the beta. Like, for me personally, the game feels average. There's no like, oh wow, it's amazing, or oh wow, you must play it. It just feels, it's something you can enjoy again for like 2 to 4 weeks, which is what Diablo 3 was for me. It was every new season it'd be like, oh, 2 weeks of fun, and then what? And for action RPGs, I feel like I want more out of that, or I expect more out of that. Anyway, thank you for listening. Let me know what your own experience has been with Diablo 4. And again, please keep in mind, these are my thoughts on the game after one day. They're my thoughts after not seeing the end game. It's just with what was offered by the game so far. And I am not excusing the game by comparing it to Diablo 1, Diablo 2, or Diablo 3, saying like, oh, it was the same then. I don't want the same game. I don't want to pay for the same that we already had. Because at that point, it's like, why not just call it a DLC then? Why not? Why are we calling it innovative? Why are we calling it a new game? Anyway, again, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. I ramble.